If is a new film written and directed by John Krasinski. I feel like we've had so many movies with ridiculously overlong titles lately. This is a nice change of pace. The last thing that John Krasinski brought us was A Quiet Place, a very good, in fact, I would say a spectacular 90-minute action-packed thriller that totally blew my expectations out of the water back in 2018. The sequel was pretty solid as well. We've got another one coming out this year that Krasinski did not direct, but so this is a very different type of film for him. It's rated PG. It's family friendly. I don't know that I would say that about A Quiet Place. Our story centers around Bee, played by Cailey Fleming. She's a young girl who discovers that she has the ability to see other people's imaginary friends, and she learns this through meeting Ryan Reynolds' character. And she learns that a lot of these imaginary friends, they no longer have a place in life because the children that used to imagine them no longer think about them. Some of them have completely forgotten them. So now these imaginary friends have no purpose, and she sets out on this journey to help them reconnect with their old children or find new ones altogether. All the while, she's dealing with the fact that her father, played by John Krasinski himself, has some pretty serious health issues, and she's a bit concerned about that because her mother passed away from illness as well. It's not distinctly stated, but heavily implied that it was cancer that took her life. So around halfway through watching this in the theater, the projector started having issues and it stopped playing for about 15 minutes. I think it goes without saying that I was a bit annoyed by this, but it gave me some time to sit back and reflect on the movie thus far. And a lot of my thoughts were, man, this thing has a lot of pacing issues. Some of the plot elements feel very forced. I don't know if kids are really going to like it because, I mean, it's rated PG, but it has some very slow patches. It's not necessarily catered towards kids the way you would think it would be based on the trailer, but they got it up and running again. And you know what? By the end of this movie, I will say I was pretty heartwarmed by it. I think it won me over with some things later on in the film. Some pathos that may feel a bit forced, but you know what? It worked on me. There might be some low-hanging fruit in there to get you invested, but it works nonetheless. The voice cast in this is insane. I mean, Steve Carell plays the imaginary friend that we see the most, Blue, who's the big grimace-looking dude. And from the trailers, I thought he was going to be really annoying. I actually kind of liked him. In fact, he was probably my favorite If in the movie. But it is both crazy and weird to me how many big name actors show up for like a very small or even cameo role. Bradley Cooper, Phoebe Waller-Bridge. I could probably name a dozen. Emily Blunt, George Clooney, Matt Damon, Bill Hader. The list goes on and on. Awkwafina. And one thing that I will point out is it's a little bit strange watching these live action characters interact with these fully animated characters. Not that the CG is bad or anything, it does feel a little out of place at times, though you can tell that these things just aren't real. But for a family movie that is playing up our ability to imagine things, especially as children, I don't think that's a problem necessarily. It does have other problems though, most notably the pacing. It just really slows down at points. And when it's just following the human characters and not focusing on the imaginary friends at all, I just feel like there are segments of this that will not hold a child's attention span. But it does have a significant degree of charm to it. Most of the humor worked better than I thought it did. In the trailer, there's a running joke that you see where Ryan Reynolds trips over an invisible imaginary friend. And this is a running joke that we see throughout the movie, and I started to get annoyed by how repetitious it was and just unfunny in general it was. But if you stick around to the very end, it actually has a pretty decent payoff that I was impressed by. When the imaginary friends aren't present, it really does rely on the dynamic between Cailey Fleming and Ryan Reynolds, both of whom are great. I don't think many people know about Cailey Fleming, but she was introduced in The Walking Dead like 5 or 6 years ago when she was 10 years old, and I was really impressed by the amount of range that she showed at such a young age. She's great as the protagonist here. Ryan Reynolds, well, he's Ryan Reynolds, but come on, we all like his persona. It's why he's able to get so many roles. Although I think this goes without saying, but this is a very PG version of Ryan Reynolds. He's not allowed to be Deadpool. This story about forgotten imaginary friends trying to reconnect with the children that have left them behind is very derivative though. I mean, this is absolutely an amalgamation between Toy Story and another movie that I'm not going to name because it'll kind of spoil the ending. But just because a film has similar objectives to existing ones and maybe doesn't flesh them out as well as those other films, I don't think that makes it bad by default. In the end, this is a movie not only about lost childhood and reminiscing on childhood, but also the stories we tell ourselves. And the fact that I was able to walk out of this feeling warm and uplifted despite all of the projector issues that really annoyed me, I think it says something about the movie. It definitely could have been a lot better if they would have trimmed up those first 2 acts and maybe just injected a little more fun into some of those scenes. I think it really comes to life in certain sequences. It's just others that kind of drag it down. So I'm going to give Imaginary Friends, or If, 3 stars. If you're looking for something to take the family to that's heartwarming and just going to make you feel happy inside, this is a good choice. It's not great. It's not going to blow your socks off or anything. There are moments in it that absolutely achieve exactly what I wanted it to, but it's not as awesome as I think it could have been and as awesome as John Krasinski could have delivered. So those are my thoughts on If. Be sure to let me know in the comments what you thought of the film and hit that like button as well as subscribe while you're at it if you want to see more content like this, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.